for Kerry.
Thank you. What did I learn? Podcasting is harder than it looks. That's what I've learned. I also learned that if you wear this t-shirt, people will ask you for things. And I don't know anything. So it's been a very interesting day. Thanks, Natasha, for the suggestion that I present in this t-shirt. I owe you one, babe. I said that I was going to ask for a puppy when I came up here because Mark got a BMW. And then they said they would actually get me a puppy. And I said, I don't want to keep it. I just want to snuggle it. They said, no, it's your problem once we give it to you. So I'm going to up the ante and ask for a baby because for sure I'll have to give that back. So anybody who wants to lend one for some snuggles, just for the 5 minutes I'll be up here after. So I host the Marketing Smarts podcast, and what I've discovered about that is that even though I have a business degree and a law degree, I've learned more by hosting 300 episodes of the Marketing Smarts podcast than I learned in school, ever. Every week, I get to talk to some of the most brilliant promoters, marketers, authors, and thought leaders around the world about marketing. And it's been interesting to me to see after 300 episodes, 300 plus, that there are some themes that have emerged. I hear the same things in different ways from different people over and over again. So I've learned what makes marketing memorable. Marketing to be effective first has to be memorable, right? Because if people don't remember what it is you said, they're not going to do anything about it. So memory is kind of table stakes for marketing. What I've discovered about memorable marketing is that it all boils down to one single thing, and that is heart. You have to have heart. And at this point, you might be thinking, great, thanks for that hippy-dippy crap, Kerry. Have a nice trip back to the United States. But I promise there's a lot of actionable stuff in here. So to work, marketing has to be memorable. To be memorable, marketing must have heart. And in this context, heart actually means three things. First, you need to empathize with the audience you're trying to serve. With the audience, your brand is in business to help. Empathize with them. Second, you need to connect with them in a genuine way. You need a willingness to connect. And third, you need to surprise them. You need to create an emotional reaction. And we'll talk about why that matters and what it is, but you want them to remember you in a positive way. My guests on Marketing Smarts over the past 5 years have said this to me 300 different ways, but they're all saying the same thing, and that is that memorable marketing takes heart. So before your marketing can have heart, you need to have empathy for your audience, a genuine, deep-seated concern for what they need and what they want. One of the best conversations I've ever had on the podcast or otherwise was with American actor Alan Alda. You might know him as Hawkeye Pierce from the TV show MASH. What you might not know is that he spent 10 years hosting a show called American Frontiers, Scientific American Frontiers. And it was all about helping scientists to talk about their work in a way that people could understand. So since then, Alan Alda's done a lot of research. He's talked a lot about communication, and he says it all comes down to empathy. Check it out. Oh, it's not working.
Looking out for the other person, or generosity. And I don't use it that way. To me, empathy is just a tool. It's a way of knowing what's going on inside the other person so you can tailor what you're saying so that they understand it better. But there are people who use that tool to the other person's disadvantage. An interrogator knows how you feel. Bullies know how you feel. And they both use it against you to put you in a state that gives them more control over you. And it's possible for a salesperson to do that too. The only thing is, I think it's a really good principle to follow, that you find out not only what the other person wants, it's a good thing to find out what they need, what would really do them good in the long run to have. Even if you make a little less money per sale on commission on that item or that service. And the reason why it's better is you may be the chances are greater that you're making a customer for life if a couple of months later they say, boy, I'm really glad You touted me onto that because it saved the day. Then it's a positive transaction that can lead to more. I was talking about this with Ann Patchett, the great novelist, and she said, that's exactly what I do. She has a bookstore in Nashville, wonderful bookstore. She says, I see somebody in line holding a book, and I know that person hasn't read many novels, and she's holding a novel that's very complex and one that'll probably turn her off of novels if she tries to get through it. And Anne said, I go up to her, I take the book out of her hand, and I say, don't read that, read this. You'll like this better. She's trying to find out from the clues she's getting what the person really needs. And the person will probably come back to the bookstore to buy other books that lead up to that complex one and be grateful that she's on a path of pleasurable reading rather than tossing the book across the room and saying, now I know why I haven't been reading novels. I can't stand them.
Now I know why I haven't been reading novels. I can't stand it. Would you, if you saw your customer pick up a product of yours, would you take it out of their hands if you knew that it was not the right purchase for them? Great, there's like 3 people that would do it. The rest of you are bad people. But if you're not one of those people, maybe you should be. Because at its heart, memorable marketing is about empathy, and that requires both knowledge and a concern about what the other person truly needs beyond what you're trying to say and what you're trying to sell. One of the best writers around, period, happens to be my boss. You can tell her I said that, tweet that, Ann Handley. And she has talked for years about the importance of empathy in marketing and in writing. I had a chance to have her on my podcast exactly twice, even though I work for her. And both times, she talked about empathy. What separates great writing from good writing?
Great writing from good writing. A couple things. I mean, I think the biggest thing is really having that helping mentality, right? To very, very specifically focus on the reader, to think almost, relentlessly about the reader and the reader's experience. I think, to me, especially in a marketing context, good writing or great writing is what's, perfectly clear. It has brevity. It respects the audience's time. It has clarity. It makes its what you're trying to say crystal clear to the reader. And it really focuses with tremendous empathy on that reader. It really delivers what the reader needs and not what the writer wants to say.
What's the difference between good marketing writing and good writing generally? So loud.
I don't know that there is. Ultimately, I don't know that there really is such a thing as good writing generally, in the sense that the value of writing varies by what you want to use it for, right? By its intended purpose. So it's good, in other words, if it fulfills that purpose successfully. So in a marketing, from a marketing angle, is it helping the customer? Is it ultimately making whatever you're trying to communicate crystal clear to the reader? Is it ultimately have the reader at its heart?
Great writing, memorable marketing, both these things to be effective have to have the reader or the audience at its heart. So when you leave today, think about every single communication and touch point you have with your audience and ask yourself, does this have the audience at heart? Am I serving the audience? I'm not just saying that because she's my boss. But I will say this, that for empathy to have a positive effect on your marketing, it has to permeate your entire organization. Yes, you need to empathize with your customers in marketing. Yes, you need to write with empathy. But at a higher level, you need to have empathy for everyone affected by your organization. That includes your employees. Truly great marketing, memorable marketing, cannot come from unhappy people. This is fundamentally the case. If any of you, and you don't have to raise your hands, are not happy at your jobs, ask yourself, are you doing your best work? I doubt it, right? If we're being honest. I had the chance to interview Mitzi Perdue. Mitzi, it's a very American name. She's the widow of Frank Perdue, who was a big chicken magnate in the United States, and he did all his own ads, you can see, because he's extremely photogenic, did his own ads. It takes a tough man to make a tender chicken. The thing about that is that Frank Perdue had this incredible respect for his employees. He had an empathy for them that permeated his entire marketing organization, and that is a big part of the reason he was successful. Listen to what Mitzi had to say about how he interacted with his employees.
He had a humility to him, which would say, I'm not the smartest person, but I'm smart enough to surround myself with smart people. He empowered lots and lots of people. And then he'd always be there for them. I can't tell you the number of people who I talked with who would tell me that, say, they had an ill child. Frank would be calling them. Or they had lost a parent, and Frank would call them on a Sunday morning and just talk with them for an hour about what it was like losing a parent. We attended funerals, we attended weddings, even with retired associates. On weekends, would be out visiting retired associates because Frank's attitude was, I still care about you even if you're not getting a paycheck anymore. I think he had a phenomenal amount of caring for the people who worked. I was about to say worked for him, but his attitude was nobody worked for Frank, they worked with him. They were all kind of on a team trying to accomplish something fabulous.
Nobody worked for Frank Perdue, they worked with him. He respected his employees, he had empathy for their situations, and in return they trusted and respected him and brought him innovative ideas that helped him to make Perdue Chicken incredibly profitable and successful. It's one of the longest lasting chicken brands in the United States. I can't think of another chicken brand, to be honest. Is there one here? You guys have your own chicken, I guess. The important thing to know, so empathizing extends not only to your customer and to your readers, but to your employees. Heart begins at home. But empathy alone is not enough. You need the willingness to form a genuine connection with your audience and your customers. We'll talk about why that's important, but brands with heart forge lasting connections with their audience. One person who knows a lot about heart is the actress Jane Seymour. Her favorite movie of mine is Somewhere in Time, but to my mom, she's a Bond girl. Now she's a philanthropist, and her foundation is called the Open Hearts Foundation, and she's done a lot to connect with her community. As a celebrity, how do you choose a brand or an organization that aligns with your personal brand or your personal objectives?
Well, I have the Open Hearts Foundation, so it's my own foundation, but what we do is we support and we identify organizations that are doing what the Open Hearts Foundation talks about, which is taking a personal challenge and using that as an opportunity to help others. And this was all actually inspired by my mother, who went through World War II in a Japanese internment camp for 3.5 years. And by the time I was born and my sisters, my mother always used to say to me, darling, when things are tough and when there are challenges in life, the natural instinct is to close off. But if you can open your heart, accept what's happened, and in some way reach out to help someone else, especially from having been through something similar to what they're going through, said purpose, and that leads to happiness, which leads to bringing love into your life.
It's really incredible to think about getting through an experience like that by serving others, and that you don't come out of that experience jaded and closed off. If anything, it seems to have enhanced and created this legacy of love and giving.
Well, when I first started doing it, Christopher Reeve would have been my very first honoree, because if you think about what happened to him, he could very easily have just said, I've got enough going on. The last thing in the world I need to do is to go out there and try and raise money and awareness and fight for the rights of people who've had spinal injuries. And at that time, as we all know, the medical profession said, there's nothing we can do. But he would be the perfect example of someone with an open heart, because, he spent every waking minute for his entire life after that injury, doing what he could to help other people in his predicament.
Something I just realized is I'm going to have very few pictures with me making a stupid face because I talk so little during my presentation. It's great. I'll be like. So it might seem as though a celebrity with an Open Hearts Foundation is not relevant to branding, but that's not at all the case. You don't have to be a celebrity or even a nonprofit to create the lasting connections with your audience that you need to have memorable marketing. Take, for example, Lucy Windham Reed. She's a fitness expert and a YouTuber who's got a following now of 350,000 people, and it all started because she had this incredible sense of empathy and a willingness and desire to connect with people who wanted to get fit, but found that gyms were not serving their purpose.
I remember being in one gym once, and this gym just had 3 bikes, 3 treadmills, 3 rowers, 3 cross trainers, and 3 something else. So it had about 18 bits of cardiovascular equipment and then all your weights. And I said to him, how many members have you got in this gym? He said, we've got 1,800. And I said, so if you've got 1,800, but you've got 18 bits of equipment, what happens if every one of your members turns up at 6 o'clock tonight to use the gym? And he laughed and he said, that's the beauty of gyms. Only 10% will ever come along. The rest just pay us money and we make the money on that. And I always remember thinking that's really sad, because actually it's about wanting to get people healthy and fit instead of the gyms. A lot of them just look at the profit, and that always really kind of put me off gyms. And that's when I just thought, right, I want to learn how I can kind of bridge that gap for them and show people how they can get fit at home without having to leave the front door. And a lot of people find gyms quite intimidating as well. So that was a big turning point for me.
It's not just something she talks about. She turned around and built a following of 350,000 YouTubers and counting. She sold books. She's got a fitness empire. People call themselves part of Lucy's squad on Twitter and Instagram. They share their progress photos with her. She cares so much about people and has formed a real and lasting connection, and her business is thriving because of it. Not many marketers have that kind of connection or even a willingness to connect, but Chris Brogan is one of them. Your Sunday newsletter is one of my favorites. It's actually some of the favorite content that I get. Talk more about that, because it's a little bit different from the rest of your content. It's a little more personal, right down to what you're drinking.
Yes. So there's a few pieces of mechanics into that. So the reason I ask people what they're drinking, there's an actual tactical reason. If you don't really know what you can or can't talk about with regards to the body of the rest of the letter, maybe you don't feel smart enough or qualified enough to say anything, you could probably tell me what you're drinking. So I'm encouraging and eliciting a response. And it's become a thing, though. So I'll go to an event and somebody will ask me, but what are you drinking? Or if I don't put it in there, but what are you drinking? And I like it because there's sort of a kind of call and response nature to it. And I think that the ritualization of it was surprising to me that people respond to it and want it. So that's one reason. The reason the content is much more personal is because I'm trying to build a relationship-minded kind of business where this is behind the velvet rope, because I want to treat your inbox like it's the most special relationship we have. The last thing I want you to do is say, can I find this somewhere else on the web? And that's where most people's newsletters are. It's just a rehash of junk that's all everywhere else. The last and final part of that recipe is that I make sure that I try to keep my best free content on that Sunday newsletter, so that you can start to get this sort of anticipatory feeling. And I always love that experience because, it is still an email marketing newsletter. I'm selling something. So I love when people say to me, I didn't get my newsletter today. What happened? You didn't sell to me today. What universe am I living in that that's what people are saying to me? And I'm grateful for that. So that's why I try. But I also tell people that, if you make your newsletter kind of the secret ingredient of your marketing and sales experience, you're going to have a way better success rate than any other platform. And the numbers just so far just keep proving that.
He invites connection with people. He asks them to respond to him, not just a call to action, but a call to connection. And it's proven to work for him over and over again. So memorable marketing has both empathy and the desire to connect. Neither of which, though, will be enough unless you create the right emotional reaction. And ideally, the emotional reaction you want is joy and happy surprise that you've exceeded their expectations. Not hate. Hate is very memorable, but hate would be the wrong emotion, right? You want people to have this incredible sense of unexpected joy that they associate forever with your brand. That kind of connection lasts forever. That emotional reaction makes a lasting imprint. One person who understands the science of this is John Taffer. He's an American promoter who turns failing bars around on a show called Bar Rescue.
When I was young, something stumbled upon me that has stuck with me my entire life, and that is the fact that we don't market. We create reactions. We achieve it through marketing. Marketing is not what we do. It's the vehicle to what we do. Because if marketing doesn't create a reaction, it's meaningless.
In your book, Raise the Bar, you talk a lot about that.
I do. And I had that revelation when I was young. So I realized, okay, everything that I have to do has to create a reaction. That's how I get noticed in a crowd. That's how I get people to read what I need them to read. That's how I get attention. That's how I get responses. So I have to create reactions. Then I realized, wait a minute, I don't serve food. The cook in the kitchen isn't making an entree. He's making a reaction. He's achieving it through the entree. Because when the plate hits the table, either you sit up and react to it, or you don't. And then I realized, wait a minute, I don't play music. I play reactions. I achieve it through music. So music, food, beverage, marketing, none of these things are in fact the products that we create. We are in the business of human reactions. And whether we're marketers, promoters, food developers, beverage developers, business owners, he or she who creates the best reactions wins.
Amen. He should be a guest on my podcast. We are in the business of human reactions. I would extend his list to include software as a service, really anything at all. Are you getting with your marketing and your product the emotional reaction that you want? If you're not, you have some work to do after today. Think really candidly about what kind of reaction people have when they visit your brick and mortar shop, when they shop on your website, when they connect with you in person in relation to work. Are you creating the right emotional reaction? There are practical and relatively simple things you can do to get the right reaction. One example is Peter Shankman. He's the founder of Help a Reporter Out and the author of a couple of books, including Zombie Loyalty. And he talks about how simple it can be to surprise somebody by exceeding their expectations.
One of the companies we worked with, what we did was we actually took, customers could email at all hours of the night, I'm having a problem, hey, how do we fix this, whatever, and they did a lot of their customer service by email. And so what we did, we went through the company and we found some of the higher-ups, some of the accountants, some of the finance guys, some of the VPs, who actually were night owls or who worked in different parts of the world and were up when other people were sleeping. And we actually started routing some of the customer service emails right to them, because we knew if they were up at 2 in the morning, they would respond, and we taught them how to respond. And what we found was they took this immediate, stronger interest in their company. And they said, well, if I'm doing this at 2 in the morning, the guy who's actually paid for this job, he should be doing a much better job of this. And so they actually were able to go in and identify who wasn't working and who was. But the nice byproduct of that, and this was what blew my mind, is that we actually saw a guy in accounts, right, in accounting and finance, actually at 2 in the morning, hey, just got your email, Mr. Whoever, happened to be up and looking at it. My name is so-and-so, I work in accounting, but let's see if we can't fix your problem. If you're still up, here's my number, feel free to give me a call. And the guy gave him a call at like 2:15, he's like, I can't believe you answered, this is unbelievable. And, posted this huge, oh my God, the VP of accounting fixed my problem. And so it's this level of, holy crap, look at how awesome they were to make me feel awesome, I'm gonna tell everyone about them.
Holy crap, that's the reaction you want. If you're not getting a holy crap reaction, go back to the drawing board, you guys. All he did was take advantage of the fact that some people naturally were up already to deal with stuff. Simple. Of course, it takes hustle to be where your customer needs you to be before they realize they need you. And I talked to the prince of hustle, Gary Vaynerchuk, about exceeding expectations by doing something unexpected.
So I think one of the things everybody needs to think about, and we've been having a lot of success with GE and Dove, big brands that necessarily don't have a human touch. The extra mile. You know what the best way I can put this, Kerry, is this. If you can do for your fans / your potential customers / your customers, if you can do for them what this is, what I'm about to paint you as a scenario, if you can do this on a random day at scale, you can really win. When somebody buys their wife flowers on Valentine's Day, there's some sort of emotional thing that happens, right? There's some sort of value proposition. When somebody buys their wife flowers on June 3rd out of nowhere, the value of that same exact transaction is enormously more valuable, right? That's what I want businesses to do. That's what the thank you economy was about. It's something I do all the time, which is when you do something out of the ordinary, extraordinary, when it's not expected, you get dramatically more value out of that transaction. I think people want to be surprised and delighted, and I feel like there's a lot of opportunity to do that at scale.
Doing what is expected is the minimum today. Doing something beyond what is expected is the secret to memorable marketing. empathize, connect, and surprise people, not just by doing what is expected well, but by going beyond what is expected. That advice works for marketing. It also works for writing. Your marketing and your writing need to have heart. I know that because Mark Schaefer, this morning's keynote, sent me an email once. I'm a columnist for him. And you know what? Mark, can you just come read it? I happen to have it. It was such a shocking surprise. I printed it out before today. Think about the environment before you print. I'm going to recycle this later.
So, I'll use your mic.
Okay, I'll just stay here.
No, leave that mic. This is better. Dear Kerry, you've been doing a great job with the blog post, but I want to challenge you to get to the next level. Your posts are solid and useful, but they're reporting. I want you to think about bringing your own story into your posts. I want to challenge you to write a post that only you can write. What would you have to do to write a post that gets 1,000 tweets and 100 comments? Here's the secret. You have to dig down and bring, I'm getting emotional, and bring your heart into it. Your posts don't have a heartbeat. I want to emphasize there's nothing wrong with what you're doing. You could keep doing it and I would be happy. But if you want to get to the next level, it's time to take it up a notch. What is making you angry? What's making you sick? What's making you delighted? What part of the social web makes you excited for your children or terrified for your children? Have the courage to weave your story into the narrative and then watch what happens.
Do you want to see what happens? I took Mark's advice, as you do, and my next post about the creepy side of social media got 1,100 shares. I got interviews, I got work out of it. It was just an incredible success, and I was son of a bitch. Mark is always right. Damn it. There'll be no living with him after this, but I'm still writing for him years later, and I have always appreciated that advice. I've shared that advice with others. So Mark, thank you for telling me how to have heart in my own work. Empathize, connect, and surprise. Have heart, and your writing and your marketing will be memorable. If you want to see the full interviews from what I talked about today, I posted them on a pin board for you. Pinterest, you guys, it's still here.